to begin. This is what I do just before I go on air. Buttons. And it's possibly live. It's live! Hello and welcome to Pear of Geeks. Although it's not so much a pair this week, it's just me. And it was just Jason last week. We are still together. But this house has become a plague house. That could be an interesting topic to discuss for RPGs, because this is the show where we talk about RPGs and world building. And I've got to move my chat to the other screen because we have two monitors in this room now, a 1080 one, and we recently acquired a 4K one, and the chat was on the 4K one, which means my chances of seeing it, of being able to read that tiny text, it just can't happen. So hello Ronnie! And welcome to this week's show. I had a panic just before I went live because I thought, oh no, I wrote September in the date for the episode. I'm still so congested, I forgot that it actually was September. So this might be a shorter show this week. Jason is ill. He has what I had last week. I'm on the up. So it's a semi-healthy stream. And we're going to talk about RPGs, and my topic for this week is festivals and quite possibly plagues. Festivals inspired by the Storm Area 51 thing, and it got me thinking about festivals in RPGs. We also have a couple of other bits to discuss though. That is Con+2. I don't know why I'm doing arm movements, but seriously guys, Jason and I have been planning and building and making Con+2 all year. It is now less than a month away. Game sign up is open and we really need some games in there so that when people come and look at the site, there's games to play. It's always a bit of a problem when we first open game sign up, in that there's no way to for people who aren't GMs to do anything. We need GMs. We need you, please come run your games for Con+2. So what is Con+2? What makes it special? Con+2 is an online RPG convention. Now, you might just think, oh, I don't need to go to a convention to do that online. Why would you? Why? And it's a very simple answer. It's for an amazing cause. Note, that doesn't mean it's going to cost you money. You can come and attend for free. Our view on it is that, look, we'd love it if you can donate to the charity that we're raising money for, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But if you can't donate, that's fine. Just turn up, because maybe next year you'll be in a better position, and you will. But it's a really, really great charity that we're supporting. We're supporting the Butterfly Project. Now that is a school in Uganda that takes some of the most underprivileged children in the world, from the rural villages in the north, from the slums in Kampala, and it takes these kids in, gives them a home, and gives them an education. But more importantly, and the reason why we chose it to support this charity, is when the school's finished and the school day is done, they've got these kids staying there. What do they do with them? Well, they use board games to continue their education and role-playing games to help them imagine a better future. And the board games and role-playing games are a critical part of the education these kids receive. And what a wonderful thing for role-playing to be a part of. Taking some of the kids with absolutely no opportunities until this school comes along and takes them on, and giving them these amazing opportunity. They support them to do entrepreneurial projects in their own communities that make their communities better. And it's just an amazing charity, and we're going to talk at length about it during Con+2, because Jason and I will be here doing a 24-hour prize giveaway. It is the biggest prize giveaway of RPG products in the world, in history. We will be giving away products from all the major RPG companies and all the medium RPG companies and all the small ones, and we will be giving products away for the full 24 hours of our stream. And we're going to stream non-stop for 24 hours, giving prizes away to you, the audience. And all you have to do to win them is tune into our stream and take part in the chat. And that is it. That's all you have to do. Just take part in the chat. And you can win so much. Last year, people were winning boxes of prizes. This year, it is bigger. So that's what Jason and I do for Con+2. We'll have a third presenter with us as well. We're hoping to have Lloyd back. But, you know, he's got stuff on which we won't go into. So that is our plan. Con+2, an amazing, amazing charity. And if you play games online, then why not play a game under Con+2? It doesn't cost anything. Just go onto the website, which is con+2.live, which I really should have put on screen, but I didn't, or in the video description, but I didn't. So just go to con+2.live, CONPLUS.live, and I'll read the chat from Ronnie in a moment. So con+2.live, and then in there you can go and host some games. We need some GMs at the moment because we just opened game sign up. So get some games hosted. Be a GM. Go on, you know you want to. And then once we've had some GMs in to have hosted some games, then you can join games. Now, the tools we've created for matchmaking players to GMs are pretty cool, and you can continue to use them after the con. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Ronnie. So Ronnie's chat was, last year was superb, and I'm looking forward to this year's convention. It was an amazing convention last year, especially towards the end when we hit that $3,000 raise. It was actually $2,949 at the final count, which was a pretty amazing thing to have done. Last year we were raising money for Child's Play, which put games and toys into hospitals for sick children, which, although it was a great charity, they are a huge charity. And the thing about the Butterfly Project is we can make such a difference to a small charity that really does survive on very little money. And what we're hoping to do over the next 2 conventions is raise enough money to put an extra child into the school. So it costs to completely cover a child's primary and secondary education costs £5,000. So that's what we're looking to raise over the next 2 conventions, and in doing so we can put an extra child through the school, and that would be amazing. At the moment they are actually building another school in the north of Uganda, in the sort of remote parts, and they've actually started construction. They've raised £10,000 to build this school. They need 15 to complete it, so they're 5,000 short. So maybe our money will actually go towards that. So that's Con+2. Please go check it out, and if you're free on October the 12th midday to October the 13th midday, that's a Saturday to a Sunday in a few weeks' time, that's when Jason and I will be streaming non-stop for 24 hours doing the biggest RPG giveaway in history. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really hope you're there to watch it with us. So Ronnie says, I need to work out what I'm running this year and get it up. Please get it up soon, Ronnie, or just one of them, because at the moment we need some games in there, because as I say, we've just opened game sign up, and so the at the moment there's no games in there as I say this, but we need to get a few in there to get the ball rolling. And Jason and I would do it, but we're going to be running a 24-hour convention, so we've not got the available time to run games. I'm secretly hoping I can do a last-minute join-in of one if I've cleared everything that I need to do for the stream. But we'll see. We'll see. Touch wood. Should probably touch my head. Right, so on to tonight's show. We're also going to be talking about something called Star Thieves. So I think we should start with that. We've not got much going on in the chat though, guys. Come on. We've usually had a few people tune in by now and say a few things. I'm just going to have a quick look, make sure we've got people watching. Where have they moved all the analytics to? I don't understand what Google's done. Oh, there we go. That's where it always was. So come on, there's enough of you there. Hello, Fuke! Are my chats not showing up? No. If it's not in the chat history, then no, it wasn't. But that one is. So, hello, Fuke. So, before we get into Star Thieves, bit of a tradition. We pull this poster off the wall and I read out the names on it. Now, these are the most awesome people in the world. These are the people that support our channel directly by taking part or supporting our Patreon. So we have a Patreon to basically help cover our own costs, and we're going to actually be making our first withdrawal of Patreon funds at the convention to pay for shipping of the prizes. And our Patreons are Russell Higgins, Jolly Mangina, Mark Threlfall, Amber, Brandon Fishwick, Dave Poirier, AJ, Fuke Enterprises, Nate Hanshan, Philip Bate, and Elizabeth Chypredical. So thank you so much, guys, for your support. It helps us to do this thing that we're doing. So thank you. And then that goes back on the wall and it stays there, your names forever up on the walls in our home as our way of thanking you for thanking us. So thank you. Right. Star Thieves. What am I talking about with this word? It's not an RPG thing. I kind of want it to be, though. I'm actually tempted to offer to write them an RPG system. Because it's... I don't even know where to begin with this. It started as a Jason kind of arranged all this. Hello, Russell, hi! Jason arranged all this with them. There was a sort of a chance encounter / instant messenger conversation. Yes, I am back from the pits of death of the illness I had last week that I've now given to Jason. So he's downstairs painting miniatures with barely any voice. So so a conversation happened and now Star Thieves are part of Con+2. So I feel a little prepared in this, and that Jason's been doing all the negotiation with them. But what it is, it's a sci-fi film. They've got a Kickstarter open at the moment, so they're trying to raise the money to fund the filming of this epic sci-fi adventure. But what's interesting about it is that it's a completely minority cast. And when I think about it, there's not that much minority representation in sci-fi, which sucks. And but Star Thieves is an entirely minority cast, which is really awesome. But what I actually love about it, and the reason I'm actually tempted to offer to write them an RPG if they've not already got that in hand, is the setting is really cool. It's modern day Earth, but they're these race of people that well, they steal energy from stars, and they've spent a number of years on Earth integrating into the society, and they're now they're in that moment where they're trying to decide whether they should steal this star or not, and it's a really cool premise. And what I can show for you today is there's like a Kickstarter trailer video, and I'm going to play that in a moment. During Con+2, we're actually going to wear a 20-minute film, if you like, a short film of Star Thieves, and that that'll be it's something that I think is going to be available to people who back their Kickstarter. But we're actually going to air it to everyone as part of Con+2, along with the video I'm about to air right now, and it kind of sets up the premise of what Star Thieves is, and then after the Kickstarter, then hopefully they'll be making a film and a TV miniseries and stuff. So Fuke says, of course, when I complain about my chats not showing up, they show up. Google, all I can say to that. So whilst you figure out your chat, I'm going to play a 5-minute video, which is basically the Star Thieves cast talking to you guys.
What do you remember? everything.
There is something very wrong about what we've been doing.
We gotta take their star.
Every time we kill a star, we kill sentient beings. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Those waters make you weak.
In a few weeks, we can't leave. In a year, we're dead.
You've just watched the trailer to Star Thieves, an original sci-fi short film that can be yours with your support to this campaign. After premiering our short film, we received an overwhelming response to continue to create more of the Star Thieves story. And that's exactly what we did. We wrote the Star Thieves feature film. Our feature film Star Thieves is an epic sci-fi adventure
About a royal member
of an elite star harvesting team
who learns that his species
Have been committing mass genocide.
for centuries
He has to convince his team.
to risk their own lives.
To save the Earth from ultimate darkness.
Our team chose Kickstarter for this campaign because we knew that they would be fair to our donors and to us. If we do not reach our target goal, we do not get to keep your pledge. It's one of the many ways Kickstarter protects you. And no matter what happens with our campaign, we're going to give a digital copy of our short film to everyone who makes a pledge to Star Thieves.
So even if you don't think we'll hit our goal, make a pledge anyway, and you'll get a free copy of the Star Thieves short film. Come on.
Being a part of Star Thieves has been such a rich and wonderful experience.
And the support at the cons really caught us off guard. After we screened at the LA Comic-Con, a dad and his 8-year-old-ish son walked up to us, and the kid was very excited, wanted to talk about Star Thieves and how much he loved it, who his favorite characters were when the movie was coming out. And the dad, with tears in his eyes, thanked us for doing this and how much it meant to him that his kid had heroes on screen that looked like him, and how when he was a kid he didn't have that. So people really love Star Thieves.
It's truly a marvelous story y va a descubrir que hay más otras lenguas en este viaje, lenguas de otros universos.
We've even added some new team members.
We're so glad that they'll be joining us on this adventure from our universe to yours.
And we have some really cool things that we want to show you about our universe. Like when the Star Thieves fight, their arms light up like lightsabers and they throw solar blades similar to Guile Sonic Boom in Street Fighter. And we can't forget about all the new tech. We want to show you exactly how we take a star.
We're also proud of the fact that we feature a diverse cast and crew. It's important for all of us to see each other as heroes, making tough decisions as leaders.
And we're just as proud of our diversity and ownership. Say hello, owners.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
We're excited to involve all of you and welcome you into our world. Our team's been working around the clock to make sure that everything's in place once the funds come in. And we've sacrificed the time needed to create this epic journey that will expand into a trilogy, a graphic novel, and a TV series that we wrote that takes place 10 years after the Shania arrived on Earth.
There's more information about Star Thieves on our Kickstarter page. And make sure you follow us on Instagram @StarThieves for a few upcoming surprises.
Finally, we just want to say thank you to all of our fans and everyone who have supported us up to this point. This is going to be a lot of fun to make. And not only are we going to create something that looks really cool, but it'll be something different for a change. So, thank you so much for your pledge. You're now a part of the Star Thieves family. You are now
Shamese.
There we go. I think that, yes, we got sound again. Right, so that's the Star Thieves kind of promo vid. Now, as I say, during Con+2, we are actually going to air that 20-minute short film. So you're going to get to see it. And it's kind of like the only place you can get to see it unless you back the Kickstarter. Whilst that was airing, Fuke and Ronnie were having a conversation about the setting. It is definitely interesting. I think it could make a good campaign setting, but I kind of want to put myself forward and say, I'll write you an RPG, because I've got ideas. Fuke says, I was just thinking this has massive potential to be so much more than just a movie, RPG, TV show, comic book, and so much more. I mean, yeah, they've got a lot of that covered already, but they haven't talked about an RPG, and I'm like, let me write it. So, we'll see how that goes, but Star Thieves it's a cool premise. Moving on, so we've covered Con+2 and we've covered Star Thieves. But let's talk a little bit about RPGs. After all, that is why we're here. So, the Storm Area 51 thing inspired this idea in me, and I've used this before. The idea of a festival, because Storm Area 51 has sort of become alien stock, and then the organisers of alien stock have pulled out, and now people are turning up and there's no festival and it's all a big mess. But what about festivals in our RPGs? And I'm just gonna YouTube. No, wrong thing. Right. So what about festivals in our RPGs? And I've used festivals a few times as a kind of a setting thing for the start of a campaign, and I've always felt I've underused them, because when you've got a festival, what does that mean in a fantasy world? And of course, you know what I'm going to say, because it's me. Let's take a look at history. And, there are some interesting festivals, obviously, Saturnalia, or Christmas as it's now known, and May Day one is one that I thought was particularly interesting. It, in its original guise, was very hedonistic and very much like a public orgy, until Oliver Cromwell came along and with his puritanical crusade and sort of purged all the fun stuff out of it. So that's there are some interesting festivals, but what is more interesting to me is the variety and diversity of festivals. There really aren't two real-world festivals that are similar, except when there's been inheritance, like Saturnalia becoming Christmas and so on. But if you look at Christmas, it's completely different to Diwali, and that's completely different to Easter and stuff. So Ronnie says, I remember running a slightly tongue-in-cheek festival in a Pendragon game where it was the Bards and Minstrels Festival at Donington. What was a joke turned into a serious storyline. Festivals are good, I think, in a world setting, because it introduces you a lot to the world. And also, I rarely do this, but if you are a GM who likes to invent a calendar for their world, and it's maybe something I should play with more, but if you do create a calendar for your world, then you need things that are interesting to fill that calendar. Events through the year. And maybe people who do calendars for their worlds are actually one step ahead of me on here, and just automatically think about festivals, because it becomes obvious to them if you're doing that. And but I think festivals are a great setting, because it provides an environment in your cities where everyone's kind of there. You can have all your characters in one place. So if you've adventured in a place for a little while and you've got to meet a few NPCs, suddenly a festival comes along and you meet them out of context. So the blacksmith will be there, but drunk, and you get to see another side of those NPCs, which is, I think, is a cool thing to do with established characters. But what I've tended to do in the past is to use festivals at the start of a campaign, and I think I've missed the opportunity to do that by not having festivals occur in the campaign. And it also misses out that festival preparation time that you could have as kind of backstory and world building within your environment. So players turn up in a town, the festival isn't on, but the preparation is on, which can be cool. So Fuke says, festivals always felt more like a midpoint for a game rather than a start, but I miss running and being in games. My only experience with Crom is a Doctor Who audio. Yeah, I mean, did get into power. He was a dictator. He caused the troubles that existed in Ireland for hundreds of years after, the troubles between Ireland and England. He kind of conquered the country and stuff. Bit awkward. And he's celebrated as a man who was very much a man of the people. But I have to say, I once lived in a house that was on a housing estate that was built in the corner of a field that was next to a hospital, the police headquarters, the fire headquarters for the county, a police forensic lab, a country park and a school, and all of that land was kind of the land of his house where he grew up. So he wasn't exactly a man of the people. Yeah, he's a complex character. That's mostly he's remembered fondly, really, because the Victor writes the history books. But after his death, the king that came after actually exhumed his body and hung him, drew and quartered him, and his I believe he's buried under Elephant and Castle in London, in 4 pieces. So yeah, there's that. Because he did kill the previous monarch. Anyway, festivals. Why not have a festival celebrating the death of a much beloved leader from the past? There we go. Cromwell's just inspired something useful at last. Fuke Enterprises says, this is the last time I am going to try and say sorry for not doing a shout out on my own channel for Con+. Fuke says, every other time they have been lost. Oh, what, the chats? I see. Right. Well, look, there's still time. Con+2 is, it's October the 11th. So there's still time. It runs October the 11th, which is a Friday, through to the 13th, which is a Sunday. But the game matching tools that you can use as GM and players will continue working long after. Whether we get enough momentum of players to actually make it a useful tool, I can only hope so. But it has an instant messenger thing, and if you players don't respond to the instant messenger, then it will send an email, so that's quite cool, and you have a conversation. It won't be emailing you during the conversation, but it will send you the conversation if you weren't online at the time, so that's kind of neat. And if it does build up in popularity, if it does become a service people like using, then absolutely we can do more. There's more tech that can be thrown at it. We can do apps, we can do video messaging and stuff. It's all stuff that can be done, but as a starting point, it's a little matchmaking service with an instant messenger that emails. So it's a cool, useful tool, and if you like it, then great. You can continue to use it all year round, and of course it'll build up hopefully enough momentum so at the next convention we'll have loads of games right from the off. That's my hope. So Ronnie says, I have considered doing an entire season with a festival, given the sheer amount of intrigue, mystery and character building that can be done, along with multiple story threads. And that's the thing, because a festival allows you to see your characters and your non-player characters out of context, and that's what I really like about the concept of a festival. Is you can have a character who would normally be ruling the city, and you might meet them in the tavern, or completely out of place. I remember in one of the Wing Trinity games or campaigns, because we did a few campaigns in that world, and I think we started one of them on an island called Festivus, because in that campaign there was this city called Moraine Archipelago City, which is a city of 1,000 islands, and one of the islands is actually given over to holding festivals, and it has an opera house and a pub and various other things and a fancy bridge. And anyway, and when I was writing the kind of backstory for this world, I found myself kind of thinking, well, it's got to surely have festivals going on quite a lot, and I imagine some of them are private affairs, privately booked, and people are always trying to drum up, bit like Con+2, right? We try and drum up interest for Con+2. Things like this will be going on in the city all the time. That need to be in order for an island to justify its existence. So, what are the festivals that this city celebrates? One of the crazy things I came up with, I've mentioned this before, that because murder is legal for lords, there is an official Assassin's Guild and stuff, and they're quite open about it, is that they'd have a float at one of the festivals. The Assassin's Guild would have a float with their assassins on, and there'd be celebrities, because they can literally get away with murder in that setting. So Fuke says, should I try and be there for the whole 24 hours with Jason and Becky? This is something I have been debating. Well, last year, of the 3 presenters we had, so Lloyd, Jason and myself, only I managed to do the full 24 hours, so I'm hoping they can step it up again. Full 24 hours. But there were definitely people that were sort of there for most of it. It was a kind of a core crowd of about 10 people, I think, that were kind of tried to consume as much of this giveaway as they could, and they did literally win boxes of prizes, which cost a fortune to post. So, hello James Breeden, hello, welcome back. Hi everyone, I hope all is well, blessings. Well, as I mentioned, this is a plague house at the moment, which is why Jason isn't here. I have just recovered from the plague, and still a little bit under the weather, not 100% yet, but here representing. It's going to be a shorter stream tonight because of that, because I won't be able to sit here talking for 2 hours. I will just collapse, and there's not enough in me, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but I'm here right now, giving it my best, and I can already feel my voice is wanting to hurt me. So, right, yes. So we're talking about festivals in settings, and so far the main points that we've brought up are: it's a great way to reintroduce NPCs and show them NPCs the party already know, and show them in a new light, in a different context to what they'd normally be met in, and also if you're a GM who does calendars, then festivals, you can dot a few festivals along your calendar. They can help shape the calendar, and that, much like Christmas does in Britain, and I'm sure has a similar effect in America, as does what's the big one in America, the turkey thing, Thanksgiving. It shapes the entire calendar for a period leading up to the big festivals. Christmas, I'm already hearing it mentioned. It's September, and which I always hate. Christmas shouldn't officially start until you see the Coca-Cola advert. Come on, you're not allowed to talk about it until then. Right, Fuke says, Canada is having a federal election. A lot of my time is spent on doing non-partisan reporting on it. That's been taking a lot of my energy. On the other note, I have been sharing Con+ links with folks. Yes, please do that. But more importantly, when you share a link to Con+, this is really important, right? Write a little bit about it as well. Don't just share the link, because everybody kind of ignores links. We're so saturated to it. But tell people what it is. This amazing, biggest RPG prize giveaway in the world, and an opportunity to get together with new gaming groups, form new groups. I mean, The Provokers was a huge YouTube sensation a few years ago, and it actually started at this convention. It was one of the early Brigade Cons that became Con+. That happened because of this convention. So yeah, tell people this stuff, and when you're sharing links on social media, because it'll help. That's more interesting, I think, than just a link. Fuke says, sorry for the non-sequitur. Yeah, no worries. It's important to have non-partisan reporting. Although is there such a thing as being non-partisan? What happened to Halloween? Yeah, exactly. Well, I think in Britain this year, Halloween's kind of cancelled because it's the same date as Brexit, so let's just move past that topic very quickly. There'll be people celebrating it, but I dread to think what's going to happen when the kids come knocking at the door asking for sweets, doing the whole trick-or-treat thing, and it's like, no, we're all just bankrupt. Sorry, can't afford sweets. You know, this will be currency tomorrow. I'm not giving you my last jelly baby. Who knows? So, festivals. Yes, Halloween, of course, is a major festival. And, you know, in a fantasy world, you could directly take Halloween and, well, you know, plenty of films, and Buffy ran the plot line. It's the only night of the year when the vampires can actually walk the streets. And, you know, cool premise. That's, you know, you could absolutely do that. And, but there is just such a variety of festivals in our real world. Everyone knows the Festival of Colour. I'm trying to remember the name of it, because it's not Diwali. That's a different one. At least I think it is. Oh, gosh. Anyway, you know, it's where they throw all the coloured powder around, and, you know, what a spectacle. It's an amazing thing. There's the one in Spain with the bull run, which is a little bit animal ethics, but you know, again, such variety in festivals, and it's an opportunity with your world building to be really creative, and you know, maybe tie that into the geography of your city as the kind of, and certainly the culture of the city, as the kind of things people celebrate in your world. Fuke says, candy as money. Now there's a cool idea. Wouldn't last long in this house, I have to say. I am a sucker for sweets. Ronnie says, love the Buffy take on Halloween. That demons and the forces of darkness never came out that night, as they found the whole thing far too crass and commercialised. Yeah, I think they did make that joke in a later season. I think in the first season, I think one of the vampires said, I love Halloween, I can walk around tonight. Something along those lines. But yeah. So yeah, have a thought about festivals in your world building. But we did come up with another topic as this stream started, which is plagues. And what plagues are in your world? What's the setting that has it's the default D&D one, isn't it? That had the spell plague, Forgotten Realms, which I've never. Despite having the Forgotten Realms sourcebook thingy, I still don't understand any of the history of that damn world. It's such a terrible book. In fact, it's not on my shelf at the moment. Good. I hope it's been burnt. Of course, I'm talking about the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, which is the worst D&D book ever printed. But yeah, what plagues are in your world? Because we don't often... And yeah, here's where it gets complicated with healers, right? And temples and healing being so common. And, you know, players often get back to town, go to a temple and just get healed of their maladies. Does that mean you're living in a world where everyone is healthy? Because that doesn't feel very medieval to me. I'd much rather, in terms of world building, turn up at a town and have the old red cross on the door for the bubonic plague. You know, what would that mean for world building? The fear of interacting with NPCs who might be plague-ridden. And, you know, what have they got? Leprosy. You know, the fear in olden times that people had of lepers, you know, making them live away in cave systems and stuff, away from people. You know, there's a thing, you know, we talk about classic dungeons in role-playing. Why aren't the first level of dungeons lepers? Maybe it's the lepers that come to the heroes and say, could you clear out our cave system? We've got a null problem, but we're lepers. Nobody will help us. Fuke says, why not combine plagues and festivals? The thought did occur to me as I was saying that, as I was introducing plagues a moment ago. Should there be a festival of plagues? And you know what? You could absolutely do that, especially if there's a big religious temple behind this particular festival. Not so much celebrating plagues, but celebrating that they can cure them, and the whole thing is marketing. And maybe they give 5-6 people a free cure, and that's what brings thousands of people to the city. We could be the chosen to be cured, but of course everybody else has to pay. You know, the priests can only do so much, then they have to rest, but this is the day they do free cures on, and the rest of the time they're far too exhausted from their paying customers. But this day they do it for free, and really it's just marketing. Ronnie says you could have a festival of healing. Just kind of had a similar thought in terms of the plague. But you know what plagues could there be in a fantasy world? Because you know we had plagues in Europe because of our cities and being in such close proximity to animals, right? That's what caused the first big plagues. Lots of dense cities and proximity to animals, so a plague would jump from one species to human, and that would be the outbreak. And because cities continuously have people arriving, there are more people arriving than are dying of these various maladies, and so we eventually build up this common immunity to them, and hence when we went to the New World, everyone died of the plague because they didn't have the resistance to all of these maladies. Now, that means a lot of the things that we call plague or have called plague in history will probably have come from horses and other livestock. But in the D&D verse or any other fantasy setting, you've got a lot more animals that could cause potential plague, and in fact demi-humans. What's a cold in an orc? What would that do to an elf if it transferred? Would it be a very different kind of malady if it manages to jump species? Because if you've got lots of different species and different immune systems in the same location, and how many cities have you been in that didn't have a dwarven quarter, then what is the effect of those maladies? And if dwarves are down there in under their mountains digging up gold in proximity to whatever underground denizens and animals they use in their mines, then what are they immune to that the half-elf isn't? Right, so let's catch up on chat. So, note to self, watch more of Pear of Geeks 2. Oh, hang on, I think I've missed some chat. So let me scroll back. So, Fuke says, if gods give people the magic, couldn't gods deny cure disease spells because, for whatever reasons? That's interesting. Denying cure disease. Why would a god do that, though? Why would they deny a cure disease spell and not answer their priest's prayers? Unless, of course, there's some kind of, Nurgle-type god. So, I want to hear your thoughts on that one, Fuke. So, Ronnie says, but then the players discover the church are, in fact, spreading the plague in order to sell the cure and make a fortune. Wow, okay, now I understand. Wow. Yes, and that's an entire adventure we've just written that some party somewhere will hopefully get to play on at some point. Yes, Pear of Geeks 2. So for those who don't know, Pear of Geeks 1, this is it, is this show, usually with me and Jason, and of course the Con+2 telethon that will be running October 12th. We do occasionally do standalone videos that aren't these live streams. I'm hoping to do one soon. And they are usually they're all about improving your game, and we talk mostly about RPGs. Occasionally we cover other topics, other nerdy things like board games, mega games, and we sometimes diverge off into history because we're interested. That's kind of what Pear of Geeks 1 is, but there is a Pear of Geeks 2. Now, Pear of Geeks 2 is our live play channel, so there you can see every Monday night, apart from with missed a few recently because of this plague that's been going around. But every Monday night we are playing an RPG game. Every now and then you'll see something else on the channel as well. We do have something special coming up, actually, on Pear of Geeks 2. It's a little way off. For some months now, I have been painting all of the armies of Middle-earth. So I've done the Free Peoples of Middle-earth, the Elves, the Dwarves, the Ents, the Eagles, the... there are other factions, yes, there's at least one more. Oh, Dead Men of Dunharrow, Gondor, Rohan. So I painted all of those, and I've painted the Uruk-hai, I've painted the Wolf Riders, I've painted Murmur-kills, I've painted Orcs, I've painted the Corsairs, let me see, the Spiders of Mirkwood, the Nazgul, obviously, the Northmen of not Rohan, the Northmen who invaded Rohan. Where were they? Not Dunharrow, somebody will remind me, I'm sure. And I'm midway through painting Easterlings, and when I've done that, when I've finished painting all these blasted armies, that's taken me months, I'm going to start painting all the cities of Middle-earth, little miniatures of all the cities, and all the fortresses, and all the places of interest, and all of the towns, and the cities, and the stuff. Yes. Right? And I'm going to build this giant map of Middle-earth. Got the models, got them all. Right. It's now just painting. And then I'm going to build this, I'm going to sculpt Middle-earth, and put all these places on. Even done the, what are they called? The statues. Pelagia? No, Argonath. Yeah, even got models for that. And then Jason and I are going to play the War of the Ring board game, but on a big actual model of Middle-earth, all painted and stuff. And that's going to be on Pear of Geeks 2. And then on Pear of Geeks 1, we're just going to put like end of turn summary type thing as all part of a review that will come out later. So that's going to be an intense. That'll be like a full day stream. So let me catch up with where was I on the chat. So are you suggesting Elflu jumping to Orcs? Yes, you are. I was actually doing it the other way round, but yes, that would work too. Definitely a thing. So Ronnie says Pear of Geeks 2 is great for the live plays. Saddened that life got in the way and I was unable to continue with the D&D game, but looking forward to the next one. Yeah, so Phil Bate is currently GMing a D&D game that we're playing on Pear of Geeks 2. Ronnie was a member of it at the start. I am playing... yes. A cat, a naked cat, who has no fur. A tabaxi. Who was started off as very unsure of themselves and has become, I wouldn't say confident, but definitely menacing. Has always been menacing. So Fuke says, too bad it's Monday nights, wish I could join, but afternoon work in Canada, Monday to Friday doesn't work, we'll just get back to listening. Yeah, I mean, we play midweek, I'm sorry. We were, so at one point we were doing this show as a podcast, and it was starting, we got a few people starting to download it, but it got to the point we'd have to start paying. At some point we need to sort that out again. We will eventually, after the convention. Convention is so much work. But we were talking about plagues. So, yes, certainly jumping between species definitely could be a cause. I mean, it is the cause of plagues in the real world, but it's a fantasy. You don't have to use that. But it could create some racial tension. Maybe that's why elves and dwarves don't like each other in your setting. Maybe there was a flu or some other malady, something more sinister. Maybe you don't often see dwarf magic users, although I do have a miniature of a dwarf wizard. It's quite cool. It's got a wand and everything. But you don't often see dwarf wizards, and maybe an elven plague struck the dwarves, and now they can't use magic in your setting. You do, however, see clerics, but you don't see. I mean, I suppose Tolkien had elven healing, didn't he? But yeah, maybe there was some reciprocal effect. Maybe you'll ban elves from being healers in your setting, and then you have this kind of reciprocal hatred, and that you can get exceptions, but if they get exposed, maybe that causes them to lose power for a while, possibly even permanently. So, Nathan H., hello! Welcome to the stream. Actually getting a little close to the end because it is a shorter stream tonight. Because this is a plague house and we're talking about plagues in D&D or in fantasy settings, in world building, and what it can mean for your worlds. And I love plague I don't love plague, but I love the idea of putting plagues into our games because it sows the seeds of distrust. It allows you to have this fear, this visceral fear of certain characters might have against certain others, in that, this is why orcs are evil. You come out in a rash, and maybe it's made up hearsay, but maybe there's some truth to it. So people are feared of orcs. They think that if they get too close to an orc, they'll come out in a rash, and maybe it can happen, but only orcs that carry a certain, gene or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to do in your fantasy setting, or orcs that have a cough or something, but causes a rash on certain species, and now it's kind of like an old wives' tale. Oh, orcs, they cause rash, Don't hang out with them, even if it's perfectly safe to do so. Maybe that's why the you don't play with the half-orc child, because they might have that malady. So that your kids aren't allowed to, or some NPCs' children aren't allowed to play with the half-orc's child, for that very reason. So yeah, that's a wonderful thing that plague can do to your game settings. And yeah, absolutely, a festival. There's more people turning up. Hello, Scott. This makes me want to continue, but I'm kind of running out of content. So Ronnie says, I know how I would run a plague in a game. I would ensure that it only involved a certain section of the populace, rather than just all people. See that paranoids and fear heightened. Absolutely, that's what it's about. You don't want everyone to die, unless you were doing some apocalypse scenario. But Fuke says, God creates a disease to punish his orcs, doesn't give the orcs the magic to cure it. Then it jumps to elves, and God B can't cure it because it's orc plague. Players figure out why orcs are being punished. Yeah, absolutely. And Ronnie says, or to really hit the gut, punch with the plague, only kills children. Make sure you've got consent from your players before you do that. Ronnie, that's just mean. Leave the kids alone. Damn straight. Yeah. I mean, when you're doing stuff like that can involve children, you have to bear in mind there might be players at the table that have lost a child, so try to ensure you get consent before you do something like that. That's actually something. So there's this book that's been going around that I haven't read yet, that people have been raving about, called Consent in Gaming, and of course, because it's got that title, anytime it's mentioned, there's a certain type of person that immediately goes up in arms about it. But it seems to be very popular. Might actually check it out. But so there's been some very positive reviews of this book, Consent in Gaming it's called. And of course, loads of people that won't give it the time of day. One of the things I've seen since that book is somebody did this kind of like a pre-consent checklist that they give to all of their players, and it lists loads of things that people might object to, and allows them to say yes, no, clear it with me first, and they give that out to all of their players at the start of a game, and then they don't need to write who they are on it. It can be anonymous, And the GM can go through it and say, well, okay, these are themes I've got to avoid, or I need to clear that. I want to do this theme. I clear that place. But it kind of lists all the possible things that somebody might object to, which I thought was a nice idea. So I'm falling behind on speech. Michael B says, hi, in the real world, the same disease was called by a foreign nation's name. So syphilis was called the French disease in England, and French called it the Italian disease. Called the same thing elf disease and dwarf disease. Yeah, absolutely, that's a cool idea. Hello, Jason.
Hello.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, we're being joined by a plague-ridden host.
I've had a second wind.
Wow, okay. So, I'm just catching up on chat.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm kind of late, sort of. Would you call it late? No, actually, no, I'm not going to call it late.
Ronnie says, yes, I would get permission, and of course, it would be done with sensitivity, as I always do in my games. But even I would balk at using the notion of a disease that targeted only children. I would find that harrowing, but it would be a gut punch. Fuke says, do I talk too much? No? Talk more! Although apparently YouTube is eating your comments.
Oh, okay.
Fuke's been having trouble when he's been typing. Not all of his messages are appearing, but it's nothing to do with us. It's a YouTube thing. So
wow.
Yeah. Should use the chat on the Con+ site. That works.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it doesn't appear on the stream, but it works.
With if you talk too much on YouTube, it will come up and say, you know, you're not allowed to talk or something.
Although
say on Twitch
apparently is configurable in hosting options as well. We can turn that on or off, but and I've no idea what we normally run it with. I think during last year's Con+ we ran it, and that was sort of part of the gamification. Is people would type their numbers and then get locked for a bit if they went too quick. It was quite cool.
Fuke says, I arrived with style. That's a good way of doing it.
He certainly did. He arrived with refreshments for me and
Jägermeister.
Alright, so we've had topics of festivals and plagues. I don't know how much you heard.
I've heard quite a lot of it. I've been busy washing minis and cutting them and stuff, like trimming bits.
Aha, yes, Jason's been working, or is about to start work on his own mini project. We've nearly finished painting Scythe.
Mm-hmm. I've got, apart from the airships, which I'm trying to pretend they don't exist right now, I've got literally one mini left, and she is a pain in the arse. Because I wanted to try and make a specific colour, like a kind of a nice jade green colour. And it's like, it's for a really tiny little bit, and then there's a white dress, and of course everything else gets on the white, and... But the thing is, every time I've always said, oh, this specific one inside is a pain. No, this one's a pain, and yeah, they're not the best moulds, to be fair, so
yeah,
a lot of the detail is lost.
Yeah, so I think when we bought Scythe, we were like, after the bulk of people who'd bought them, our moulds are definitely not very good.
I've just read Nathan's messages. There's a bit further up that we've lost. There's been suddenly a load.
Oh, right.
So Nathan H says, unrelated question. I don't know where you got this comparison from, but who is the woman on the wall under the Diagon Alley sign? She looks a bit like Patsy from Absolutely Fabulous. No. I don't think she looks anything like Patsy.
Okay, this is Chiana from Farscape. The actress behind that is Gigi Edgley, and you can actually see Gigi Edgley on the Pear of Geeks introductory video. So if you ever look at the Pear of Geeks page whilst not being a subscriber, please don't unsubscribe, just open a private browsing window or something.
She doesn't look anything like Patsy / Jennifer Saunders.
But you can actually see Gigi Edgley endorsing watching Pear of Geeks, because of course she does.
Yeah, Jennifer Saunders didn't do that.
Yeah. No, she didn't.
Well, because he says that she looks a bit like Patsy, who's played by Jennifer Saunders. I don't know if
she
watched
also,
Absolutely Fabulous.
If you ever watched Farscape, she is the character who said Frel the most. Frel was their made-up swear word to substitute for the F word.
Oh.
And I think she used it 3 times as much as the next character.
Well, there are also variations like Frelling.
Yes,
or fell
absolutely.
off.
Yeah.
I
think in the course of the run, I think she said it 127 times, I think it was.
I think my two favourite fantasy swear words are smeg and taff.
Well, smeg isn't really a fantasy swear word, it just wasn't on the censor list.
Really?
But it is a thing.
Is it? I've only heard it from Red Dwarf.
Okay.
And you saying it. Wow,
it is a thing
to me.
that I don't particularly want to describe on air.
Okay.
Because it's quite disgusting.
Okay, fine. Wow.
It involves the member of male.
Okay.
You'll find it under the fourth piece of skin, and it's kind of a crusty remain.
I see.
That is smeg.
Right.
Okay, sorry about that if you're eating. So, where were we? Oh gosh, it's got to that point where the chat starts scrolling way too quickly every time you move
Yeah, you
it.
need to use the thing.
Oh, the sidebar.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's just...
down a bit more. Okay.
Fuke said, had to switch from phone to old laptop to this laptop and then reset this computer to get it to work.
Nathan's suggesting that she's a heroic Patsy. at least, I mean... Patsy just gets drunk all the time and expects people to do everything for her, so...
Ronnie got it right. She is indeed from Farscape. Trying to scroll this without losing the play. There we go. Oh, Farscape. I need to watch more than the first season of it. I watched the entire thing because it ends with like a kind of a double film thing. I actually... Right, we have an old TiVo box that is not connected to a telly because I gave it away.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have the TiVo box and it has... No, it doesn't have the series, it just has the final films on it. Because I had recorded them off the telly just before TiVo ceased to be relevant. So Nathan H says, the distance from the camera lighting is playing an effect. Also, we can't see the names on the paper. Not that I need recognition, just giving feedback in case I misidentify other things. Rimmer is a smackhead. Yeah, it can be tricky.
I just found your comparison absolutely hilarious. Out of all the people, you thought it was Patsy.
But we could get it closer because I last did this when there was less people on the stream. So, the most awesome people in the world. These are the people that make this channel happen, and we are so grateful to them. Somebody's asking, Fuke is asking, what is TiVo, the British PVR? I don't know what a PVR is, so...
Is it a type of TV?
It could record multiple TV shows at once, and you could set it up to record a series of, like, any time this show airs, just record it.
Okay.
So you could set it up to record Farscape, as I did back in the day, and whenever Farscape aired on any channel, it would record Farscape. It was rubbish, incidentally, for recording Formula 1. Because they always had, like, it would be the San Marino Grand Prix or Monaco Grand Prix, because it got renamed.
Oh, right.
It couldn't handle that. But it could handle, recording series of things. And I'd occasionally have to go in and delete about 30 gigabytes of Simpsons, because I once accidentally set it to record Simpsons. And didn't realise for a very long time, and then I had to find the menu eventually of where to not record something you'd set up to record, because that's on a sub-menu somewhere. Anyway, the most awesome people in the world are Russell Higgins, Jolly Mangina, Mark Threlfall, Amber, Brandon Fishwick, Dave Poirier, AJ, Fuke Enterprises, Nate Hanshan, Philip Bate, and Elizabeth Chipraditko. This is my decree. It is unquestionably, they are the most awesome people in the world.
Yes.
According to Empress Princess Baxter.
If you're Empress, what does that make me? A page?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, royalty, therefore, it's all in French, so you would be my...
That's not a page, that's a king.
I know. I couldn't... Well, yes, you'd be my king. Subservient, but a king.
Yeah, wow.
Nathan H., have you ever done a show theme around multi-classing I'm preparing for a game for old school players, D&D veterans, where the players will be allowed to multiclass 2 levels simultaneously to 7. Thereafter, only one class to 20 or standard multiclass leveling will apply.
We haven't really talked about it.
We don't cover it. We don't tend... I mean, we use... Here's the thing. Like, most people who watch Pear of Geeks probably don't play D&D. Some will. We use D&D as our focal point because everyone has the rules, everyone understands it. So we sometimes go into the mechanics when we're expressing something, but we don't usually do video topics on the mechanics because for us D&D is a central reference point rather than, like, I mean, we do actually play a fair amount of D&D actually, but...
we are at the moment.
Yeah, we have
but
been.
not always.
We go long periods of time where we play alternatives and...
like Corporation.
Yes, do like Corporation. Hence the big signed poster.
That's actually mad.
That is, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't realise we were putting dibs on things that are signed. I think I have more signed books than you.
Well.
But if you want some signed books, why not tune into Con+2 in a couple of weeks' time, where we'll be giving a load away.
And a signed mini.
So, Fuke says, I think PVR is something I accidentally made up, thinking of something I can't recall the name of. My oops. Don't run 5e. I don't run 5e, that's for sure, says Fuke. Ronnie says, most RPG systems have some sort of multi-classing, although it's more like multiple professions. But see, the thing is, multi-classing in 5e is really so simple. So for those who don't know the mechanics of it, basically, when you level, you can choose what class that's in. It doesn't have to be a class you've already got. That's essentially it. Now, there are some rules on if you've got 2 spellcaster classes as to how the spell slots work. So there's a section on that at the end of the... I believe it's on the end, just after the classes, and... yes, it is after the classes are detailed, but that goes straight to equipment. And then I think it's after that in the book. Can't remember now for sure. But, so yes, spell slots have some custom rules. But other than that, you just say, right, well look, I'm a 6th level. I've just earned 7th level. But I'm going to take that 7th level in something else. You don't progress up them. Like, it's not, like it's 300 XP to get to level 2. You're not like, if you're at 6th level cleric, it's not 300 XP to get 1st level fighter. Is your 7th level, you choose to take it as fighter. That's how multi-classing works in 5th ed. Now in older editions, it didn't work like that at all.
I imagine not.
No, it was complex, and it depended on if you were human or a different race as to how it worked. And I never really got my head around it. It just didn't. It didn't make sense. I think, if I recall correctly, it sucked to multi-class as a human because you could only use the skills of the class you were actively leveling, and if you used a single skill from another class, you lost all your XP. You got no XP. You had to start your level again.
But what? Why would you punish a player like that?
It sucked. But then if you were... I think... Was that impact humans or did that impact non-humans? I forget which way round it was. But then for the other racial combination, you had to distribute your XP exactly between the levels.
That sounds too much of a faff.
But because the levels had different XP level breaks, you could be like a 3rd level something and a 5th level something else. But you'd have the same total XP count in each level. It's quite weird. I didn't like it, and it never made sense to me either. Did we? I think we.
No, we didn't do Ronnie.
No. Hang on.
No, we've done that. We've done all that.
Done it.
We need to do Ronnie's comment.
Right, most RPG systems have some sort of multi-classing, although it's more like multiple professions, yeah. Fuke says, need to see if I can find a copy of Alternity to run the last game by TSR. I'd not heard of that one.
That sounds cheesy but cool.
Nathan H says, thanks for the info, Pear of Geeks audience. I heavily homebrew rules and use D&D skeletal structure, but heavily edit for realism.
Yeah, I was looking at Zweihander yesterday, and it looked intriguing. And I suddenly thought, a Warhammer mechanic in any kind of world you want, really. As in old school Warhammer. Or 4th ed now, because it's been brought to 4th ed. But, yeah, interesting.
So Ronnie... Oh, God, this chat just breaks this late in the stream. I need to fix the old chat system, don't I?
Yeah.
Well, I think what broke it was the YouTube cancelling on my API key. So Ronnie says, I remember multi-classing in Palladium was simple enough. When you took a new class, then you had to earn either 1 or 2 levels before starting that new class at level 1. Why would you earn a couple of levels before starting to level again? Okay. Fuke says, for leveling in 1E, would you ever run Rifts? I remember Rifts. I'm sure I've played Rifts, but it'll be many years ago. Anyway. I don't remember enough to talk about it. So Ronnie says, not anymore, Fuke. If I did, it would be Savage Worlds edition rather than the Palladium Books version. Nathan H. Agree, Jason, about Zweihander. Looks interesting. Patsy broke your YouTube chat when she showed up. Not enough cigarettes in her mouth. Well, Zweihander's interesting because the guys behind that are... they seem quite nice. They were very, like, in some of the industry groups, they gave loads of advice on how to actually create games profitably. Because a lot of people really struggle to make money writing for RPGs, and Zweihander kind of hit on a formula that really worked for them. So they kind of gave away a lot of the secrets of how they work drive-through RPG to make money for them.
Cute.
And I did start reading through it, and it's a lot of work. So fair play.
Yeah.
They've kind of mastered the drive-through RPG system, as it were, to make it work for them.
I would like to run Warhammer again, though.
The problem with RPGs is because it takes so long to play the games, you get too many ideas in the time it takes to play one.
Yeah.
There's loads of games I want to run. What we
need...
but
you're next, so you're right.
Yeah, we take turns to GM, it's me next. But what we need is a revolution so we can spend more time gaming. Fuke says, from my very brief experience with 1E D&D, you couldn't use your old skills until your new level was equal or higher to your old level. Yeah, but then of course, how'd you progress from there? You had to work on one or t'other. But it did depend on whether you were human or whether you were demi-human as to whether that was a restriction or whether you had a different restriction. Ronnie says, I would love to play in a Warhammer game once more. I haven't done Warhammer in over a decade.
But which edition did you play?
First.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a thing when I started role-playing, you see.
Well, yes, I thought it would be, yeah.
Yeah, it was either D&D or Warhammer. Yeah, those were your choices. So I decided to play 40k, Rogue Trader, as a role-playing game, which was how it was originally written. But I changed it.
40k.
Well, no, I mean, I don't like the skirmish game. It sucks. Yeah. It's like you're meant to be doing battles of the future. That should involve thousands of minis, but they made the minis really expensive and said, you only need 6, but really you need 30. And so you do very small scale battles because you can't afford to, buy an army. And that just doesn't seem right to me. Like the scale of the game is wrong. But the Rogue Trader rule set, which was first edition 40k, was quite interesting because it was written not as a wargaming game per se. I mean, it was a wargaming game, a skirmish game, but it had an equipment section, and it was very role-playing inspired. I was just looking for it because I no longer have it on the shelves.
No.
It was very role-playing inspired. So I decided all this needs to be a role-playing game is to multiply the wounds by 10, and when you do damage, roll a d10. Boom! It's a role-playing game. And then if it's 7, 8, 9, I made it a critical wound, and if it was 10, I made it insta-death just for shits and giggles. Wouldn't do that now, but would definitely have the critical wounds thing. But yeah, and I kind of want to find it again, because to be honest, it's a good book. The first edition was a good book, made for quite a good RPG, but it didn't make for like the actual standard races that people would play. Like if you had a Harlequin and a Space Marine as a group, that just sucks.
We do have all that to give away, by the way. To Con+.
Space Marines?
Not the Space Marines, no, as in the new Warhammer book and stuff.
Oh, the new Warhammer Fantasy roleplay.
Yes.
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 Do we have that in hard copy?
Yes.
We got it here.
Yeah.
Cool.
We got it a good while ago.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Yay. So we're giving that away from Cubicle 7.
Mm-hmm. And I had a lovely interview with Dom.
Yes, Dominic McDowell Thomas.
He's been extremely passionate about bringing it back to 4th Ed, because apparently it was his first ever game he played. First Ed. Warhammer.
So Fuchs says, regarding Alternity, characters were created with a point-based system. Classes were replaced by professions, fair enough, which dictated what skills and abilities were cheaper for any given hero to get. Now that's an interesting approach. You take a certain profession, then certain skills become cheaper. But still available to everyone. I like that idea. Fuchs says, also, natural 1 is good. Actions are determined by a control die and situation die. Difficulty is scaled in die types from -20 through to +3d20.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting approach, but I still, when I look at different dice mechanics, generally what I want is I want to roll as few dice as possible to get the most detailed result possible.
Yeah.
And most game systems are really just different ways of achieving that with different numbers of dice. I want to be able to quickly get the dice I need and quickly get the result. Now, I've talked about it before, the ICE 3 dice mechanic. I think that is a fantastic mechanic. Does involve picking up 3 dice though, which makes it a little bit longer. Hi Phil.
Hello,
Thank you for the
Phil.
love hearts. So welcome to the stream of people with congested voices talking.
It's fine. It's all good.
But when you look at different RPG systems, mechanically, they don't really do anything fantastically differently. Whether it's Warhammer or D&D, they're different levels of the hero scale, like different levels of heroicism.
Absolutely.
But when you think about it, what Warhammer and D&D is just Warhammer is less heroic than D&D. Mechanically, it's just a different way of doing numbers, but it achieves the same kind of thing. And that's why I love the idea of using cards so much, because you get so much more information on cards.
I do much prefer spellcasting though in Warhammer than D&D. Seriously.
I do not recall the Warhammer system for spells now. It's been too long. But the 5th edition spell system, I think, is reasonably good.
It depends.
It suffers from the whole prepared spell thing. That's daft. That needs to go.
Yeah, I really, really don't like that. And it's only for wizards. Like sorcerers, you get like a fixed group of what spells you know, and then with things like bards and paladins, you get again a small amount of spells that you know, and then you just use them up. There's no this prepared rubbish. It's like what. If you had a really shitty GM, they could just look at what you prepared and think of something else, for example. What
I don't like about having to prepare spells as the wizard is the utility class, the penknife for every situation, right? But you take that away by making them have to know about the situation beforehand. And it makes no sense. They've got the information they need right in the spell book, and you're saying, oh no, you're not allowed to use it. But that's the solution right there. And that annoys me about the wizard.
Yeah.
It does impact other classes too, though. You know, clerics and druids have to choose what spells. And I just think what you're doing is you're saying to the player, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I dislike that.
Yeah.
Now, if they'd broken the wizard up to say, right, transmutation wizards, evocation wizards, and or something along those lines, and you say that's your spell book, you've only got those spells, I would accept that more, because you're not saying no, you're saying yes, you've got all your spell slots. This is your spell book. That would be fine. I don't mind having different spell books. Or even different abilities and different types of magic.
If you lose a spellbook, for example, you might struggle to cast something as well.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
great, but yeah. And Ronnie concurs and says, I do have a major problem with a spell system where you can't remember a spell after you cast it.
Well, that's prior to 5th edition.
True, but it's still
5th edition,
a wizard
the
thing.
Spell.
It's like, oh, you can't possibly remember the spell unless you write it down. And
Well, older editions of D&D, you would make your list of spells, and those were the spells you could cast. And if you put down 2 Cure Light Wounds and 1 Magic Missile, I know I just went cross-class there, and you cast that Magic Missile, you still just have 2 Cure Wounds. You cannot cast another Magic Missile. But 5th edition, they did fix that. Which was a huge step forward.
Yeah.
But they're still saying no to the player. You can't do it by having this prepared step.
It really confuses me as well, because you've got the amount of spells you're allowed to take, then you've got your prepared spells, and then with other classes you've got known spells, and then you... Nathan says, Jason, can you elaborate on the spellcasting difference? Bear in mind, the last time I played Spellcaster was a good few years ago.
Read the next.
Yes, Jason, could you do that?
Then read the next.
Never mind, you answered it.
There you go.
Okay. But what I liked, first of all, how it fit in with the actual kind of careers you do. So when you're a spellcaster, there's only really one way of learning spells. There's not these completely different ways for different classes, like with 5e, which again really confuses me, and I have trouble remembering which one is which. But the spells are kind of more like they're more like a skill than something separate to that, and they kind of go along with your attacks if they're offensive, or if they're defensive. It's a move you can do during combat and things like that. It's not something that you have to prepare or remember. It's quite heavy on components, but I like that because it gives you opportunity to role play, and the DM I had was good at kind of putting them in like a surreptitious way and things like that, so that was good. And you get a good decent list to start off with. There's an apprentice wizard, that's your sort of first career, and then to get more powerful you become what's called a journeyman wizard. And as part of being a journeyman wizard, you can then choose what kind of wizard you want to be. So it involves a different element, or I was going to be basically a wizard of light to try and combat the darkness, because I basically, unbeknownst to my aloofness being an elf from Drakwold Forest and not really interacting with humans much, I had, unbeknownst to me, brought about the end of the world in Bogenhafen.
Can you keep talking? I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Sure. So, yeah, my plan was to become, somebody of light, and you get, like, it's kind of familiar after that to, I suppose, being a sorcerer in 5e, in that you've got a list you can choose from. But yeah, it is quite simple. You roll under a D100 like you do with everything else. You have to successfully cast the spell, though, in order to then attack if it's an offensive spell, and things like that. But I definitely remember my reaction at the time, as somebody who played 3.5e and always steered away from spellcast, especially wizards, because just the thought of me having to prepare spells and you can't remember stuff, and I hated that. I remember, choosing my sort of career and thinking, yeah, I want to be a spellcaster because actually they look really good in here. And so I'm sure if I play one again, I'll let you know how I feel about it and hopefully give you something more specific than that. But again, I played a spellcaster in Warhammer literally, what are we talking now? 6 years, possibly 7 years ago, so brain's a little bit fuzzy on it. But anyway, let's have a look at some of the chat more. Oh, quite a lot. Here we go. Phil says, I don't like the D&D spell system, so rarely play a caster. Yeah, exactly. With me, if I do play a spellcaster, it's always primarily doing something else. So, like, a bard, and you have a few spells. A ranger, you have a few spells, Something easy you can sort out. Or a sorcerer. I have played sorcerer a couple of times as, a D&D class, and it's a little bit kind of extra work at the start, but at least you've got, okay, this is the amount of spells I'm allowed to choose, and then, okay, I know them. And then you just carry, so that's fine. But, the wizard, I'm playing a wizard at the moment in this real-life campaign, and it's just annoying as hell.
I think I just invented a new magic system when I was on the loo.
Oh. Should I ask you to elaborate or not?
Yeah.
I'm currently going through the chat at the moment.
Okay, so I was thinking about this whole spell topic whilst I was on the porcelain, and it struck me. I caught the corner of my eye. I saw something about spells being a skill.
Yeah, that's what I said. So
yeah.
It doesn't actually say it is a skill, but it's kind of treated like one.
Now, what if there was an RPG system where spells were skills? Because if you think about it, you might practice a spell and get good at a spell. Doesn't mean you're good at every other spell.
Yeah.
So if each spell was its own skill, and then here's the thought I had when I was sat on white. You always want to say yes to your players. You don't want them to fail per se.
Mm-hmm.
So what if, when they cast a spell, they do succeed? And I was thinking about this as like, think Hollywood, think movies, right? When you've got like Stranger Things, when Eleven is trying to do something, she always succeeds in doing that thing, but it's the effort that it puts on her. So when you roll your skill, if you were to not make your skill roll, that's when you deduct mana. That's when you have a chance of burning out of your ability to cast more spells. But otherwise, yes, because I want to say yes to my players.
Are you thinking of After Forever After then?
I am.
Oh, cool. Phil also says, even if I play a rogue in D&D, I don't do magic. Oh, I hate the rogue in 5e. I've said this before, but I really don't like how they've put that whole magic thing in with it.
Well, that harks back to first edition.
Yeah, but I don't like it.
Rogues could read scrolls.
I don't like it. I also don't like, and this kind of links to the rogue as well, in 3.5, you had so many skill points you could spend, and, you're more intelligent, so you're going to have loads of skills, and you can tailor how you want and make the type of rogue surrounding your skills. But now in every single class, it's, you get these 3 skills, and you can choose from these 2 skills, and it's like... I really hate that.
I like rogues being able to read scrolls, because it goes back to I started in first edition. Rogues could read scrolls, and because of that, you've always got 1, possibly 2 characters in the party that can read magic, cast a spell from a scroll. So GMs used to make scrolls treasure.
Yeah,
but in modern gaming in the 5th edition era, oftentimes GMs don't even put scrolls into the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's sad, because I think we've lost something there. I really like giving scrolls out as treasure, and it's how I have my wizards in my 5e games discover new spells.
Yes, I do like that about what you do in our game.
And the other thing that I do is I say, if you are out of spell slots, and bearing in mind I am harder on long rests, I only let players take a long rest when they're in comfortable lodgings. I don't let them do it when they're on the road. so there'll often be quite a long time between long rest. But if you run out of spell slots, you can cast the scroll. It dissolves the scroll. And this is sort of calling back to first edition. A scroll is a single-use thing, but your spellbook is just a collection of scrolls in my world. So I'm giving you lots of scrolls, and you can cast them as spells if you have the sufficient level, but you can always cast them as a scroll.
Yes.
So that's how I handle it in 5e, but I do feel the need to write a new magic system now. It is hard to write magic systems though, because there's so much writing, so many spells.
Oh my gosh, there's loads of chat. Okay, Ryan says, I like the Savage World system with power points that you use to cast, or systems that use scalable magic, where you can pump more points in on the fly to make a bigger spell. Well, there is a bit of the latter in 5e, where you can cast something as a higher level if you want, but you're not really pumping anything into it. You're just, leaving space for that in the spell slot.
Yeah, well, is it the source? No, I think it's the Warlock, isn't it, in 5e that can use spell points. Which one
I've
is
never
it? It's one of
played
the
a
two.
Warlock.
I've
familiar
never
with-
played a Sorcerer. I did play a Warlock, but only in one session.
Sorcerers do not have power points. Or
So
anything
it must be a
like that,
Warlock
so,
then.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can maximise a spell, you can extend a spell, you can do all various different things with your spell points.
That might be why when I played in this 5e campaign, Warlocks were banned. Makes sense. Fuchs says, went through 3.5 and took out all the casters like wizards and clerics, found classes and made everyone cast like rangers, bards and sorcerers. There you go. And druids. Druids were good as well.
Yeah, but druids are full casters. I love ranger magic, because those spells are just kind of little tiny boosts, and I think they really add something to the ranger. And I'm sad that when they first did the Unearthed Arcana ranger replacement, they got rid of the spells. But I think there's a new ranger coming in Unearthed Arcana. May have already come out by now, I haven't checked up on it. Where they have brought the spells back in again. You're like, oh yes.
That's good.
So there is hope for the ranger yet, because they're sorting out the big problems they had with the favoured terrain and the favoured monster being a bit rubbish.
Yeah, because it's like every time I've done a favoured terrain, favoured enemy, guess what? They never turn up.
Yeah, well, it was one of the... When they designed the game, they imagined the game being played slightly differently to how we generally actually play it.
Yeah.
And they kind of missed the mark a bit on the ranger, and the favoured terrain really is meaningless, and the favoured monster...
It's just racist. Well, as we always used to call it, the racist class.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like they don't just hate orcs, for example. They really hate orcs. They get special damage against them.
I think you'll find most, like, if you go back to first edition with the way favoured monsters used to work, because you did the extra damage, you actually loved fighting those creatures.
Yeah, but it's the hate, putting your extra damage in it. Yeah, I know. Nathan says, I never stick to the rules or in Magic in any game module. I've yet to find one that gives the player freedom, yet also works with some kind of limit. I'm sure Gandalf never did spell prep, lol.
He also didn't really do spells.
No.
He channeled Narnia. Is that his ring?
Nenya.
Nenya.
And that's actually not his ring.
Yes,
that's Galadriel's ring.
Oh.
I'm not sure what his ring's called.
I thought it was Nenya.
No, because she says to Frodo, this is Nenya and I'm its keeper.
Shit, you're right.
I'm not sure his is called, but his is the Red Stone.
But yeah, he's mostly channeling the ring, which is why it's always confused me why when he went into Edoras,
yes,
there was the big deal over his staff.
Okay. What, in that they wanted to
take his staff. It kind of implied the wizard's power was in his staff.
Oh, I see, yes.
But it wasn't, it was in his ring.
Well, maybe they were ignorant.
Gandalf was using the ring to subtly influence a lot.
Maybe they were ignorant. Maybe they just knew that he could cast magic, and they thought, obviously, it's his staff that does it. But, then again, this is just movies talking, though, in his fight with Saruman, they both use their staffs, supposedly.
Yeah, and when the White Rider scene in Pelennor Fields, it's the staff that glows and stuff.
Yeah.
So they did move it all to the staff, didn't they?
Well, they kind of staff, ring, staff.
When did they use his ring in the films?
Well, no, but sorry, what I'm saying is that with I told you to take his staff thing, but it's the ring, that's the two towers.
Yeah.
But everything else is his staff, he uses his staff.
Yeah, but even in the film, it's the staff he uses to heal. What's his
name?
Yeah,
of course it is. Yeah, I forgot that bit. Yeah, Theoden.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So, Fuchs says, so it's all known spells. As far as I know, yeah. You get a list to begin with, and then I'm sure you can, as part of your leveling up, you can then get more spells and stuff like that. Again, I can't remember the exact sort of details. I'm sure they've ironed it out anyway for 4th edition.
So Nathan wants a mana system rather than spells per day, but I've always thought spells per day is kind of a mana system. It's just simplified.
Yeah, I mean, you might not achieve much in a day, or you might do absolutely friggin' loads in a day. So in some ways, it's a little bit odd how I can't remember if it's 5th or if it's 3.5, but there are some things like, especially the clerics, where the spells come back after midnight, but everyone else you have to rest.
Well, 5e it's definitely you must rest.
Oh, maybe it
yes,
was 3.5 then.
I'm just trying to remember. I mean, it's we think of it as spells per day.
Yeah.
But we're kind of associating, but it is
Sleeping.
5e definitely. It's long rest that resets everything.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think back to 1st edition. Was it spells per day? No, you definitely had to rest. Yeah, definitely.
So if you didn't mean to steer away, that's okay.
Michael B says, D&D spells were inspired by the... I've lost the place where...
It's really hard to control this thing now.
D&D spells were inspired by the Jack Vance novels. To get a feel for it, read his books and it may give you a better feeling for where they came from.
Alright.
I have not read them. Sorry. Fuchs says it's part of being a conversation. It goes everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Wow, our chat is behind, isn't it? It's so hard to move this at this stage of the day. Ronnie says, Vatican magic simply doesn't make any sense to me, so I much prefer spell systems that don't have instant amnesia.
You mean Vancian?
But it's the old 1st edition method of you
Okay.
cast a spell, you forget it. It's
Yeah.
used, which I agree with. It's daft. Fuke talking to Ronnie says,
Oh my god, it was right perfect there.
I'm working on a 3.5 homebrew, taking stuff from various spell books and putting it into one file. Could I share that with you? Shadowrun says BF Misk. Hello, BF Misk.
Hello, BF Misk.
Shadowrun, at least the edition I played, treated spellcasting like a skill. Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't played Shadowrun for years. I remember my very first session of Shadowrun, though. Actually, I remember my first 2 sessions. The GM decided to start the game off in a combat, and I decided that what I would do is I would run from the cover I started off behind, because basically GM began the session, said, right, where are you? And I said, okay, I'll be here. Then he put a combat in and said, right, I'll start you off in a combat, and he put people in the warehouse, and I thought, oh great, I'm a close combat character and I'm miles from them. So I decided I would run across this warehouse from one side to the other. 2 sessions later, I arrived. That was my first experience of Shadowrun. It took 2 sessions to run across the warehouse.
And how long were each of these sessions?
3.5 hours. Let me see, no, there was 7 till 10. Yeah, 3 hours.
How do you even do that?
This combat took, well, the first half of the combat, it took over 3 hours.
I could...
So I was 3 hours running across this warehouse.
It would take me serious effort to make a combat that long.
Midway through the second session, I got to these crates and I still wasn't close enough.
Wow. Well, with Corporation, if you count the sort of psychic stuff as spell casting, that's also put onto one of your skills.
It is, yeah, and it's interesting because if you make a psychic character in Corporation, you do actually have very few skills, whereas most characters have almost every skill in the game at some degree or other.
Yeah,
almost.
You get a good,
good spread,
breadth of skills at different.
So levels, you do need to consider that it does. If you're going to make spells into a skill, it's that you're actually making the character kind of less versatile.
But out of the, I can't remember if there's anything else in the Mind Unbound, but
I haven't read this one yet.
Like any extra spells or anything, but the ones that I know of could actually replace a couple of skills quite easily, like jump, for example, instead of athletics.
Yeah. There's some that... See, the thing is, though, the psychics are generally, in Corporation, they're very specific to their purpose.
Yeah.
There's like a healing one, there's a damage one, you know. And the skills are generally a bit more varied in what you can do with them.
Yeah, pretty varied.
I don't think there are, though, because I think they would have updated the character sheet, so I don't think there's any new abilities.
That's true, yeah.
I think new telepathic skills, page 61.
There you go, what did I say?
What has it got? Cloak, Mind, Nullify, Psi Armor. Okay, there's a few. 4 more.
Okay, very nice. I wonder when Ronnie would mention True 20. True 20 uses that sort of system, Becky. Powers are rolled as a skill, and in Savage Worlds, also mentioning Savage Worlds, the different sorts of magical disciplines are skills you roll to cast your spells.
But do you always succeed, even if you fail your roll? Because that was my thought while I was on the loo. It's like, because I want to say yes to the player. So picture 11 doing a psychic thing to force the Demigorgon out the window. She's going to succeed, but if she fails the roll, yes, the Demigorgon goes out the window, because I want to say yes to my player, but now she's spent. Now she hasn't got that psychic ability to rely on her next action.
Yeah.
Because she's spent a mana. So that was kind of my thought on it. Obviously it needs fleshing out into full mechanics and making sure it's balanced and everything else, but and also need to decide whether partial fail is part of the system in order to incorporate that, but anyway, or success but. Where are we at?
Scott Poe.
5e sorcerers get meta magic and sorcery points. So it was sorcerers.
Oh, right, well, I
Warlocks
completely
get at
forgot
will
that then,
and
sorry.
once per short rest spells.
Well,
thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, but I
again,
haven't played a sorcery yet, so that's why I...
But like I said, I keep forgetting which specific rules go with which specific spell class, because they all make... they're all different and some of them suck. No, it doesn't help at all.
Totally different chats on screen. What happened to the rest of that page?
Oh yeah, wow, okay. Oh
yeah.
I was trying to bring it to the top.
Does it help to think of it as investing the spell with power? You don't forget the words when you cast, but the words no longer have power, or when you memorize it, it is putting power into the words.
That's kind of deep.
Yeah, but it's just a wordplay to try and explain a bad mechanic.
Yes, Michael B.
No, I mean, it's a good attempt at justifying 5e's magic system. The problem is 5e's magic system doesn't deserve a justification. Ronnie says no, it doesn't help at all. Fuke says, for my homebrew 3.5, it's all known spells like sorcerer,
even the cleric.
Even the cleric is known spells like a cleric. You either know the spell or you don't. Spellbooks don't exist. You see, I do like the idea of spellbooks.
Yeah, I like them too.
You know, there's something to that. It kind of feels a bit more Buffy-esque or Sabrina-esque. That there's this spell book that's got the magic thing in. And it makes a lot of sense for ritual magic.
Yes.
To have spell books. And I'm actually, especially when it comes to AFA, I'm actually not keen on the idea of having magic that's insta-cast. I much prefer the idea of ritual magic. You know, you look at Lord of the Rings, all the magic in that is like Elven Rope, it's clearly magical.
Yes.
So the item has been imbued and forged with magic. Now that must have taken yonks to make, that Elven Rope.
Well, the elves do have a lot of time on their hands.
Exactly. You know, which is why they can artisan this amazing magical rope. And I much prefer magic at that kind of level. And one of the big problems I have with D&D is it's an incredibly high magic environment where there's spells going off left, right and centre and stuff. And I kind of it's too much. And it means that magic items, are they really that special? I mean, Tolkien made rope special.
Mm-hmm.
He made a cloak special. Yeah, and you can't do that in D&D. You can have a magic rope, it's just, it's a useful item that comes in handy in these circumstances. Oh, great. You know, that's another bit of power for my character. Tick the box.
Mm-hmm.
So I much prefer low magic settings. And I think the problem is D&D just cannot do that. It does heroic tons of magic.
Mm-hmm. You gotta have your magic sword +1.
Right.
Cool,
Can we scroll the text?
Yes.
Yes. People being able to choose spells from a huge list don't exist. So this is talking about his homebrew 3.5. Anyways, I'm heading to work, so switching to my phone. So I'm just going to listen and ignore the chat. Sorry, cool chat, people. It has been cool chat. There's been lots of chat tonight.
Yes. Although I think it took a bit to get going, if I heard correctly.
Let's not talk about it.
Okay.
Nathan H says, not letting a player essentially do anything but one action for 2 sessions. Oh, this is the run across the room thing. It's an indication that being a DM isn't part of that person's destiny. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Right. I mean, this goes right to back in the day, and I mean, I would have been no more than 16. I would guess. So, you know, we were all youngsters, and yes, obviously the GM was struggling to manage the group. I think we did have a fair number of players in that game, so that probably didn't help either. But it didn't help as well that Shadowrun is this game that deals in segments of time, so each second is split up into a number of segments because bullets fly so fast.
Oh right, yeah.
So of course, the moment you want to move, well, how long is it going to take to cross 40 meters? What, 5-6 seconds?
1 million seconds.
Well, if it's 5 or 6 seconds, how many segments is that? I can't remember how many segments Shadowrun has, but you know, let's say 4 a second. All of a sudden, you're talking over 20 turns.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that's
really
kind of the problem.
Yes.
But also, I think to a certain degree maybe mismanaged, and it's possible also that this warehouse scale was maybe not that believable.
No.
Right, but you know, it's too many years ago to remember. So, BF Misk says, yeah, most of Shadowrun's combat was pretty intense, but the spell casting system was cool. You could flex the strength of your spells, and failure...
We missed one out.
No.
We have.
We did that.
Oh, beg your pardon. Yes, we did.
Sorry. You could flex the strength of your spells, and failure to channel it diminished your endurance. So yeah, I seem to remember it being a mana-based system from what I can remember, but I mean, God, I haven't played it in decades.
It's funny because the only accounts I've heard are your accounts and that really awful game the Gentleman Gamer played at a convention.
I don't know that one.
Well, it was mainly the GM's fault rather than Shadowrun, but even so. It was set in Birmingham, out of all places. There were things like the GM completely ignoring him and another character when they wanted to do something for over 40 minutes.
Ouch.
Then there was a bit where someone, like an NPC, smuggled laxatives into their coffees, and they had to roleplay going to the toilet. And then the final straw was when they caught this assailant person. I think they tied him up or something, and then they wanted to check the area. They go around, and then they see somebody else coming up a fire escape. They kind of, one on each side, so one above, one below, try and get to the person. What do they find? Nothing. They disappeared.
Wow. That's,
You keep losing your hat.
I do, yeah. I'm blaming it on the cold. BF Miss says, whereas other players were going for cybernetic implants, a caster would lose their humanity/essence and not be able to channel magic as well. It was a good trade-off. Yeah, it's one of the things with all cyberpunk-style games, is there's always like a limit to how much cybernetics you can have. What?
I was just reading ahead and just reacting to Fuchs' comment, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
you can't help but read it now.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Fuke. I'm gonna make you donate money to charity. You know that. I'm gonna make you do it. You will not be able to pass your saving throw.
Put it this way, if Fuchs stays up for 24 hours non-stop and goes into prize fighter, which he will be doing a lot of his combat is going to be donkey.
Yes.
Unless he donates.
We haven't explained that.
No.
At any point.
But
yes,
you will be playing a donkey.
I'm sure he will. But we'll explain that when Con+2 happens. It's going to be funny.
Yes.
I'm glad that the donkey will definitely get an airing. I put a lot of work into that donkey. No one knows what I'm talking about. It's fine. What was it? Oh, yes. So, cyberpunk systems tend to have this limit on the amount of cybernetics you can have. But the biggest problem I've always had with these games is it's practically impossible to start with cybernetics. Consequently, you very rarely ever play a character that's got cybernetics. And I have splat books of cybernetics that I will never see in a game. And it saddens me. It really does. I want to have the cybernetics in play. I think in Shadowrun it is possible to start with cybernetics, from what I can recall. I think you can manage a cybernetic arm or something at the start. But certainly I've had GMs allow players to have it, so it's either possible or GMs have allowed it. With Corporation, it's not really part of character gen at all. It's something you can spend your earnings on. But the one time we did a campaign, it was so damned ridiculous that there was no opportunity for the players to cybernetic up. We started it with the intent of actually exploring all of these downtime, doing a campaign of Corporation, but 2 is going to be me running Corporation again.
Yep.
So we'll see. Maybe this time we'll get cybernetics in play. Right. Ronnie says Shadowrun was a bear to try and work, which is why I gave up on it. A bear?
Maybe he means bull.
He could mean bull, but he is Scottish, so there's no way of knowing for
a
sure.
Bear.
We are caught up on the chat.
Yes.
How much life have you got left in you, babe? Because my voice is very close to gone.
I am starting to get hot flushes from temperature, so...
Guys, we have given it our all.
We're going to stagger away and die somewhere.
We've done 2 hours. Which is
you've done 2 hours.
Well, yeah. That's not bad for people who are ill and dying of plague. So thank you so much for keeping the chat entertaining, guys. Thank you for keeping us on air so long. And look, it's been great. I've enjoyed tonight, so thank you.
Yes, it's been good fun.
And we will see you next week. Hopefully, I'll be fully healthy by then. Jason will be about where I'm at now.
No, I'll be fine because I actually took days off to rest.
I couldn't not. There was a new EU law, and I had to write loads of code to make stuff compliant with the law for 3 weeks before we leave. Right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you,
Have
everybody.
great weeks. We will see you next Friday. Next Friday. And we will also see you at Con+2. Don't forget, go to con+.live and register some games. We need some games in there so that when the general public turn up at con+.live, there's something for them to join. So go on, be a GM, get online, play some games.
Yes.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Do it.